Hello and welcome to the breakdown of episode 2 of Penumbra. It's an Invideo original one-man project. I'm working on it all by myself with no story, no pre-production plan, no script, nothing, just vague ideas and some imagination that I'm further developing and polishing by brainstorming with Agent 1. And so far, I've reached 25 minutes in the series, combining episode 1 and 2. Episode 2, unlike episode 1, is 14 minutes long. And guess how many days it took me to develop those 14 minutes? You're right, it's 14 days. So let's look at the highlights, insights, the knowledge and experience that I can share with you. So building the first section of episode 2, the entire mental torture sequence of young Vera shown deceased picture of her mother and a lot of back and forth things. It's supposed to be very chaotic. But before I get to that, if you recall from episode 1, if you watch it carefully, which I recommend you do, young Vera has escaped from somewhere and young Isaac discovers her hiding inside an abandoned car. That somewhere was undetermined until episode 2. Why? Because it also decides the genre in which this entire series is going to go. It can go into supernatural directions, it can go into sci-fi directions, whatever, right? So I did some personal research, I did some brainstorming with Claude and came to a conclusion that I can take inspiration from the MK Ultra project that ran back in 1950s, 60s, 70s. And it was like an illegal mind control and human experimentation program. There is not a lot of details about that, but there's a lot of text. So I had to visualize things on my own. Of course, I did that with Agent 1 as well. Building the location sheets for the conditioning room, different angles and whatever equipment would be inside. One thing I would like to say that I've actually started relying on the agent for a lot of technical and historical details as well. For example, I don't know what kind of projector should the room has. Should it be a video projector? Should it be a slide projector? I don't know. But and having an intelligent partner actually makes me feel so much lighter. It's like almost a big weight of research has been taken off my shoulders, and that makes it so much faster that I can just focus on the story and the communication. That's all. I can just focus. Everything else I can rely. I would never say 100%, but as far as I am in the story right now, I think everything's pretty accurate. How did I come up with the slides that we see in the projector? First of all, I had pictures of young Vera. I also had pictures of adult Vera. I asked Agent 1 to invent a mother. First of all, I had to understand this fact that at that period of time, clicking pictures was very occasional since they did not have cell phones or personal cameras. I asked Agent 1 to suggest me a list of events that would look appropriate, and it suggested me birthday and some candidates and stuff like that. I asked it to degrade the quality and match according to that time period, so I had a collection ready. The next step was to animate every image, so I made some new agents, C Dance Assist 1, 2 and 3, even 4, and I started firing. I uploaded these images and I didn't need to upload these images, but I wanted to be very specific. So I uploaded these images and I asked it to make it look like it's from the POV of the child. For example, in this image where the mother is trying to grab the child, I wanted to make it look like the camera is wobbling. It also has some motion blur and lagging effect. And that was it. I had to give one instruction and it gave me a good prompt that did a more than decent job. Now, even for the part where she's crying and sobbing and it's very chaotic, right? See, it's a model, right? It's a model and it will do things. It cannot feel, but it will do things according to how you are narrating it. So I said that her expression should change every fraction of second. It should look like she's going mad. She should smile, she should get upset, she should start crying, things like that. I tried to be as elaborate as possible in the kind of feelings that I wanted to evoke. And it did a fantastic job. It was not a continuous shot. If you notice, there were cuts in between, very fast cuts. But every cut was coherent and it was not changing the frame or anything, but it was changing the expression. And that's exactly what I wanted. I think it came out nice. Similarly, for the pictures of a dead mother that have been shown on the projector, Grok came to the rescue because every other model was straight away rejecting that proposal. But I guess even though Grok is not my favorite model for a lot of reasons, I guess it behaves like a prodigal son that returns during exceptional cases. But even if you notice the picture, first of all, it's in a sepia tone, so that prevents us to show blood. And even if you look at the picture very carefully, it looks like a mannequin with a twisted arm, that there is no visible wound or something. So I guess that worked in my favor. Now, coming to that section where I've shown her getting tortured, there are tapes on her eyes that are supposed to keep her eyes open. First of all, I tried to experiment with a lot of apparatus. I invented new ones, but I had to resort to the tapes in the end because some of them making it look like some supernatural thing going on, as you can see. And this was also something which was difficult to execute also for me personally and for the models to execute as well, because first of all, models like Nano Banana 2 or GPT, etc., would straight away refuse to do this. Grok, on the other hand, was willing to show a teenage girl with that kind of apparatus on her face, but it was not coming out well because it was constantly changing the face. With GPT-2, I was able to get something. She's not looking like a teenager, but I think in the final edit and video, we were able to like bypass that. Since it was a constant switch between the teenager and a little slightly older face, I decided to just keep it and try to get away with it. I just love Agent 1 when it comes to casting because I don't have to think about anything. I don't care. I've stopped caring about so many things that it's spoiling me now. I was working on the market chase sequence inside the market. When I was attaching the character sheets of the goons, it was constantly replicating them and showing them as shopkeepers and stuff like that. And I just asked Agent 1 to give me like one character sheet and displaying like 4 or 5 people that I can just spread across to show some variety. And it gave me so many options. I just had to pick one of my preference and that's it. And I know that it's giving me according to the context, according to the story. It's not going to give me some Britisher. It's not going to give me an American. It's actually going to give me a relevant person to showcase and to place in that particular sequence. And it's beautiful. Now, coming to the chase sequence, fun fact, I've barely used like 3 to 4 pictures to create the entire chase sequence. I had a couple of pictures from the last episode and I asked Agent 1 to just expand it and give me a couple more shots, maybe a variety of them, maybe one aerial shot or something, maybe a picture of the market, something like that, because I wanted to show some drama and chaos in the market as well. So it gave me like a picture of the market. It gave me a picture of like an aerial shot. It gave me a picture of a stairs, picture of a roof, and that's it. I used these 4 pictures to create the entire chase sequence because who cares? It doesn't matter. Nobody cares about the map of the entire thing. Sure, there is a part where we have to bring Isaac closer to Vera, young Vera, because that's what we have shown in episode 1, that young Vera comes to Isaac, give him her hand. I solved that by intercutting Vera's footages and showcasing that she's also on the run, but she's also almost nearby in that area and she hears the chap getting beaten up. So I tried to solve it by that. But yeah, it was pretty easy to do that. And everything that you see in the chase sequence, all the jumping here and there, the people falling on the humor filled sequences and shots, everything. You think it's all me? Yeah, it is, but the details of it, the specificity of it, everything written. It even wrote a prompt that made that guy skid on the terrace. That is the amount of detail and creativity it automatically adds to your work, to your thoughts. And it becomes so fun to just keep on relying on it, time to time for every shot. I'm not afraid of admitting 50% of the entire drama that you see in that entire chase sequence was all Agent 1's creativity. Moving on to the sequence outside the church, you will notice there's a Rolls Royce standing outside where there's a villain sitting with his driver / henchman. I handpicked that car. I must have spent many hours going through and skimming through car options, but a lot of cool cars were 2-seaters. And that was creating a problem because ideally I wanted the mastermind to sit in the back and the person was supposed to act like a chauffeur. but it was not happening for some reason. I was not able to execute that properly, but I settled with them sitting like next to each other. Yeah, I feel like it was so easy to create a character sheet of that car because I just picked up a picture of that car from the internet and put it on Agent 1. And at this point, I believe Agent 1 can create a character sheet out of anything. You upload the picture of this glasses and it's going to give you a character sheet. It's my favorite element in the process of entire filmmaking. Character sheets are my favorite elements because the more detail you go in those character sheets, and I'm building episode 3 now, and if, for example, if I'm building the inside of a cockpit and the interiors of the cockpit, and I can actually build sheets and canonical pages of the console, and it helps the model understand so much in detail about each and everything that the people are supposed to touch or to interact with everything. Last but not the least, the cafeteria sequence. And to be honest, that was a long conversation. For the story, it was important for me to convey that kind of message. I didn't want to make it sound very direct. I wanted to make it sound a little riddled. But it was long, and I brainstormed with Agent One and I introduced the waitress and the coffee coming on time, Isaac looking at the waitress, and things like that. This is something we also tried to do in one of our short films called The Interview, which was played in World AI Film Festival at Cannes. And you'll notice that in that film as well, the protagonist is trying to make a paper plane and throw it. So these are the things that I always recommend to you as well, that when you have a long conversation, try to interact with the room, try to interact with the things on the table, make the characters do something about it. Don't just make it look like just two faces switching back and forth. Try to make it very interesting. Try to grab attention of the viewer to other things as well. Well, these were some of the major insights that I gathered while building episode 2, working with Agent 1. And I'm building episode 3 right now, and I've been trying to level up miles and miles from episode 1. And I do have some major and very insightful points that I will share with you as soon as the episode 3 is released. I will advise that you subscribe, stay tuned, watch Penumbra episode 1, 2, and stay tuned for third episode. Until then, cheers. Take care.